We were all utterly deceived. The total lunar eclipse wasn't just a celestial event, it was a cunning distraction. And now we're grappling with the consequences that have quietly crept up on us. On March 14th, humanity collectively tilted its head skyward, captivated as the moon transformed into a deep, ominous red, an eerie, breathtaking spectacle that seized our imaginations and held us in its grip. Social media platforms lit up with a frenzy of posts, photos, and live streams, while people spilled out of their homes, standing in yards and streets, their eyes locked on the heavens in a shared moment of awe. But while we were all hypnotized by this dramatic display, something far more subtle and insidious was unfolding right under our noses. Mercury, that sly planetary trickster, slipped into retrograde with barely a whisper, escaping the notice of almost everyone swept up in the lunar hype. It was a brilliantly orchestrated diversion, a cosmic sleight of hand that left us vulnerable. The eclipse demanded every ounce of our attention with its vivid, blood-hued glow, but Mercury was already at work in the shadows, weaving its influence through the unseen currents of our lives. It began shifting the energy beneath our feet, altering the very fabric of our reality in ways we couldn't yet perceive. Now, 3 days later, on March 17th, the ripples of that shift are finally breaking the surface, washing over us, whether we're conscious of it or not. You need to understand what's coming next, because its effects are already tangling with your life, whether you feel it in your bones or remain blissfully unaware. And there's a hidden maneuver Mercury's executing right now that's slipping past nearly everyone's radar. Most people are starting to think their dreams, their carefully crafted intentions, their manifestations are sputtering out, crumbling into dust. But they're dead wrong, and there's a precise reason why the things they dread most are bubbling up first. I'll dive into that fully in a bit, so hold tight, because the explanation's worth the wait. It'll click everything into place. That's just the tip of the iceberg, though. Something even stranger, more unsettling, is stirring beneath the surface, and I'd wager you've already picked up on it, even if you can't quite name it. The blood moon hooked you like a fish on a line, its crimson glare pulling your focus upward. But all the while, Mercury was stealthily rewiring the underpinnings of your existence. Cast your mind back over the past 3 days. Has anything struck you as off-kilter, out of sync? Maybe you've been waking up feeling inexplicably drained, as though something, or someone, sucked the life out of you while you slept, leaving you heavy and unrest despite hours in bed. Or perhaps you've noticed an uptick in odd little coincidences, chance encounters, repeated numbers, fleeting moments that feel too pointed to dismiss. These aren't random glitches in the matrix, they're symptoms of something deliberate. When Mercury stations retrograde at the exact moment an eclipse paints the sky, reality itself bends and twists in ways that defy our usual understanding. You might have felt that distortion ripple through you, a shiver, a hunch, a fleeting unease, but brushed it off until this very moment. Once you start connecting the dots, spotting the signs woven into your days, you'll realize you're already caught in this web, and what's barreling toward you next is going to shatter how you see everything, flipping your worldview inside out. The past didn't just creep back. It crashed into the present like a freight train, whether you were braced for it or still clinging to denial. For some, this is Mercury's dark underbelly rearing its head, chaotic and unforgiving. For others, it's a long overdue blessing finally breaking through the clouds. If you've been walking a solid path lately, making good choices, sowing positive seeds, this is your harvest season, your cosmic reward dropping in. Mercury retrograde has always had a knack for scrambling our sense of time, throwing schedules into disarray and garbling communication, but under the blood moon's eerie light, it didn't stop at mere delays or crossed wires. It flipped the entire script of karma on its head. Everything you thought was neatly tied up and shelved in the past? It's not. Old energies surge back with the force of a tidal wave, dragging up unresolved lessons you'd buried, debts you didn't know you still owed, and even rewards you'd long forgotten you deserved. Some folks are suddenly tripping over unexpected strokes of luck, job offers materializing out of thin air, relationships rekindling like sparks catching dry tinder, opportunities knocking when they least expect it. Others are getting blindsided, knocked off balance by consequences they never saw creeping up. Old mistakes or ignored warnings finally cashing their checks. What you assumed was dead and gone wasn't. What you swore would never happen just landed in your lap. It's as if the universe hit the rewind button, but only for the chapters that were waiting, unfinished, to circle back and demand resolution. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about the last few months of your life. Mercury's reaching back years, plucking strings from moments you thought were lost to time. Here's where it gets fascinating. This isn't some cruel cosmic punishment. It's an acceleration, a high-speed lane to sorting out your soul's ledger. If something good just fell into your life out of nowhere, a windfall, a connection, a breakthrough, you earned that prize ages ago, and it's finally catching up to you. If something heavy is pressing down, a burden you can't shake, this is your golden window to confront it, wrestle it down, and clear it out for good. Karma isn't here to trap you in a cage of regret. It's working overtime to set you free, to lighten your load, so you can move forward unencumbered. The faster you own what's happening, the quicker you face it head on and make your peace, the sooner you wipe that slate clean and step into what's next. But that's not the only layer peeling back under this wild energy. Masks are dropping left and right, and what's staring back at you now is the unfiltered truth. Mercury retrograde has a reputation for stirring the pot. Short fuses igniting, buried tension snapping loose, betrayal slipping through the cracks of carefully maintained facades. But this time, boosted by the blood moon's raw power, it's gone further. It's ripped the curtains down and exposed who's been quietly working against you all along. That friend who's turned icy without explanation. The boss who pulled a shady move behind your back. The subtle strings of manipulation you only just clocked. It's all laid bare now. Mercury didn't conjure these betrayals out of thin air. It simply shone a spotlight on what was already festering in the dark. And it's not just people. Entire systems, structures, the shaky foundations of your job or your trust in the world around you are showing their true colors, whether you're ready to see it or not. That gnawing unease in your gut, the whisper that something's not right. It's not your imagination, it's real, and it's got teeth. Mercury under an eclipse acts like a truth serum injected straight into the veins of reality, forcing everything hidden to bubble up into plain sight. It's zeroing in on what's been draining your energy, clogging your path, or keeping you smaller than you're meant to be. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a dead-end commitment, or a belief you didn't even know you were carrying. Maybe, without realizing it, you've been pouring your loyalty into the wrong people, the wrong places, for far too long, letting them sap your strength while you stayed blind to it. Now that the fog's lifting, now that you can see the landscape for what it is, you've got a choice staring you down. Cut the cord, break the chain, and step into the liberation that's waiting on the other side. The total lunar eclipse wasn't just a pretty light show to gawk at. It was a binding agreement, a cosmic contract we all signed without reading the fine print. March 14th wasn't your garden variety Mercury retrograde. The eclipse cemented it, locking its effects into something enduring. Ancient civilizations didn't mess around with lunar eclipses. They feared them, revered them, saw the red moon as a shift in the balance of power, a moment when the universe struck a deal with itself. This time, that wasn't just superstition or a dusty myth scribbled in old texts. It was real, tangible, and we were all part of it. Mercury kicking off its retrograde dance on that exact day wasn't some quirky coincidence. It's the critical piece almost no one's talking about, the hidden gear that made this machine hum. The eclipse was a global event, a universal magnet pulling every eye upward, and while we were lost in its spell, a deeper pact was sealed beneath the surface, one that's already rewriting paths and shaking up fates. People are feeling it now, even if they can't pin a name to it. That persistent itch that everything's different, that the ground they've stood on for years isn't as solid as it seemed. Certainties they've clung to are fraying at the edges, unraveling like cheap thread. A single conversation that unexpectedly veered and altered a relationship's course. A split-second choice made in the heat of the moment that now feels carved in stone. A door you left cracked open that you can't slam shut no matter how hard you try. Those aren't flukes. They're ripples of the deal playing out. Some are even saying it's like they blinked and woke up in a different version of their own life, as if the furniture of their reality got rearranged while they slept. This isn't a glitch or a mistake. It's the contract activating, its terms unfolding in real time. But here's where it pivots. This isn't a punishment designed to break you. If you know how to navigate it, it's a massive, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Nothing's random right now. Not that sudden situation yanking you in a new direction. Not that person who reappeared out of the blue. Not that plan that collapsed when you thought it was bulletproof. These aren't accidents or cruel twists of fate. They're pieces of the shift clicking into place, nudging you toward where you're meant to go. The question isn't whether it's happening. It's whether you're resisting the tide or diving into it. Because whether you see it yet or not, this agreement is live, and you're already knee-deep in its currents. Here's where it takes a sharp turn. You manifested something big. You poured your heart and focus into it. But Mercury flipped the order on you like a cosmic prankster. You set your sights high, visualized, believed, and just when you expected the payoff to roll in, the exact opposite showed up. Chaos, roadblocks, or maybe nothing at all. That wasn't the universe slapping your hand away, or your manifestation fizzling out. It was Mercury pulling a fast one. A trick so slick, almost no one saw it coming. It didn't halt your dreams from taking shape. It dredged up everything standing in their way first, shoving it right in your face. For a lot of people, that meant suddenly staring down their worst fears, lack where they wanted abundance, rejection where they sought connection, failure where they'd banked on success. Most hit that wall and threw in the towel, convinced it's not meant to be, that the stars said no. But they've got it twisted. The universe isn't rejecting your desires. It's clearing the debris so they can land clean. Mercury's not the gift-giving type. It's the trickster, the tester, the one that rattles your cage to see how much you really want what you're chasing. You can't call in wealth if you're secretly terrified of going broke. You can't summon love if old wounds still hiss that you're not enough. Mercury didn't delay your blessings. It dragged the last scraps of your doubt into the light, daring you to burn them down. It convinced you everything's falling apart when, in truth, it's all shifting into alignment. Those who push past the illusion are about to see the real prize waiting just beyond the storm. Mercury didn't just flip retrograde. It pried open a secret door, a back channel most don't even know exists. Known as the messenger of the gods, it shuttles between worlds, carrying whispers from the divine to the mortal. But when it retrogrades, those messages get scrambled, distorted, or even intercepted by something else entirely. This time, under the blood moon's heavy shadow, something slipped through the cracks, something uninvited, or maybe long overdue. Some are already picking up on it, waves of strange, electric energy pulsing through their days, eerie synchronicities stacking up like breadcrumbs, a nagging sense that they're not alone in the room. Maybe you've had dreams that don't feel like yours, vivid, disjointed, laced with forgotten faces, or caught flashes of memories you didn't know you had. Perhaps there's a voice, a whisper in your head, a gut instinct that something's watching, waiting. That's because Mercury reversed the filters, the thin barriers that usually keep the spiritual static at bay. They're down, and now signals from the unseen are bleeding into our world, loud and clear. Those recurring numbers on the clock, the symbols that keep catching your eye, the random thoughts that feel too sharp to be random. They might be messages, but the source isn't guaranteed to be friendly. Some of these presences are guides, here to nudge you forward. Others might have their own motives, agendas you can't yet see. The wildest part? You might have already responded, nodded back in a dream, followed a hunch, without even clocking it, inviting them deeper into your orbit. The old system, the one you've lived in, trusted, maybe even leaned on, is collapsing, and your soul knows it, feels it in a way your mind's still scrambling to catch up with. Something fundamental shifted inside you, a quiet but seismic click. Don't you sense it? The things that once felt normal, comfortable, even safe, now grate against you like sandpaper. The routines, the expectations, the rules you used to shrug off without a second thought, they're suffocating now, unbearable. You're noticing what you used to glide past, cracks in the facade, lies in the fine print, the hollowness of what you once took as gospel. Your patience for playing along, for nodding at the same old script, is evaporating, not out of petty frustration, but from something bigger, something primal waking up. Mercury, that sly trickster, didn't swoop in to sow chaos for the hell of it. It came to shake you out of your slumber, to crack you open. It didn't bother with gentle taps or polite wake-up calls. It brought pressure, contradictions, a world flipped so upside down that something inside you had no choice but to snap alert. Some are digging in their heels, clinging to their fading illusions like life rafts, pretending the fissures in their reality aren't widening by the day. But others, they're tuning into a deeper frequency. It's not rebellion for rebellion's sake, not anger torching everything in sight. It's a rebellion of clarity, a fire lit by truth, a bone-deep knowing that the game's changed and you're not meant to keep playing the old role. Mercury didn't muddle your head. It tore the veil off, and now the ones who see it, the ones who feel that electric tug to break free, to step into something vaster, are being summoned forward. The quiet ones, the watchers, the ones who've been simmering on the edge, they're stirring now, and they're about to rise with a force that'll ripple outward. This retrograde wasn't just a blip in the cosmic weather. It was a summoning, a call that didn't shout through megaphones, but sank into your marrow, a pull you felt in your chest, a pressure building behind your eyes. For so long, certain people have hovered on the brink of something massive, carrying instincts, insights, a readiness they couldn't fully name, like they've been training for a moment they didn't know was coming. They've watched the world spin, waited in the wings, held onto knowledge that seemed out of place, irrelevant, until the blood moon swept overhead and Mercury flipped the switch. Suddenly, everything's different, charged, alive with purpose. If you felt that strange restlessness over the past few days, like a current sparking through your veins, like you're being activated from the inside out, it's not a trick of the mind. It's real, and it's happening now. This isn't the kind of energy that drifts by and fades. It's the kind that rewrites people, plants seeds in your thoughts that take root and refuse to let go. When the dust settles, when the structures that have kept the sleepers lulled begin to fracture and fall, the awakened ones won't be caught off guard. They'll already be in motion. They won't wait for a green light or a pat on the back. They'll move because they've known, deep down, that they've been forged for this their whole lives. If you're still here, still reading, I appreciate you sticking with me. Share your experiences below if this hit home. And if you want more, hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps this going. Until next time, stay awake, stay sharp. This wasn't just astrology, it was initiation.